welcome. New podcast, Make Happiness. This week is pretty awesome. I'm sitting down with Chas. I've known him for just over a year or so. I met him at work at QBP, but he's into bikes. He's a positive person. He's doing a lot of cool things, and I thought it'd be really fun to sit down and get a different perspective. So, yeah, want to say what's up?
What's up, folks?
We also got Eli on the third mic. I think we're going to do that just kind of regularly because it adds more to the conversation, I think. And I think
Can't get rid of me.
Yeah. Well, how could we? You're the one who makes this thing happen.
Damn straight.
So who are you, Chas? And, tell us a little bit about yourself, the boring stuff, the background of what you do and how you became to be.
That is a loaded question, but I love it. Who am I? Well, I'm Chas. I've been living in Minnesota my entire life, born and raised, which is kind of interesting. I've traveled a bit, but Minnesota is always like home. It always has been. And we got family here, all the friends. The biggest thing for me has always been riding for sure.
Yeah, bikes.
Ever since I was a kid, it was one of those things where it was more or less like that was the escape on a BMX bike. Mm-hmm. So that's like what got me to like where I am at today, especially working at QBP and things like that.
And working in the bike shop for a while.
That was 9 years.
Wow.
In the bike shop.
That's crazy.
So in basically the same space the entire time. So you got to know a lot of people around town.
I bet. Let's just get right into it then with BMX biking. How'd you get into it? I was curious, how did you get into BMX biking? How did you learn what a bunny hop was or, that thing?
I think, so my earliest memory of BMX, it wasn't so much BMX to begin with. It was more like just putzing around the block. Cause I lived in this area, we call it the block, but it was literally a 2.5 mile loop around the lake.
That's awesome.
But we just called it the block. And my first memory of getting into BMX was I had this really terrible red Magma, and it was red and then gold rims, but we had this ditch jump, and for whatever reason all the neighborhood kids, that was the spot to go. It was just this ditch jump over the driveway.
It's the hangout spot.
We would tell jokes, do whatever, and we would always try to build a bigger and bigger jump every
So is this middle
week.
School, elementary school?
This was elementary. This was
Early.
6-7 years old.
Okay.
This is the earliest memories that I have of riding bikes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I started jumping. It was always just trying to get as high as I could on a bike, and it was so exhilarating. I was like, this is awesome.
Right.
So I think that's what kind of really took it off. And then kind of getting older and older into the early teens and stuff like that, I started racing for a little bit.
Oh, you did BMX racing?
I did.
That's cool.
And I love it and I appreciate it, but it just wasn't for me because I love going fast, but the biggest thing was I don't want to just go fast and zoom over jumps. I wanted to see how high I can get over the jump.
Oh, yeah.
And since there's so much technique behind racing BMX to be the fastest and just skip over stuff,
Right.
So there was the Isani racetrack. That's where I grew up at.
Okay.
And it was pretty run down at the time, but now it's an indoor, full on
facility.
It's crazy. Going back there and looking at it, this is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a little mini skate park right next to it.
Oh,
and
cool.
that's when I started getting into doing fakies and bunny hops and learning how to do all that stuff.
That was where the fire kind of got lit and started for you.
It was funny though because I was on a race BMX bike doing that.
That's awesome.
Completely terrible geometry for it, but it was this is fun.
Yeah, that's what you knew, that's what you enjoyed, so you were doing it, who cares what the bike was? When I first I got into it from Alex, my brother. He got into BMX bike and I wanted to be cool like my brother, so I did what he did. So
yeah, that's kind of how it was with my older brother too. He doesn't ride BMX anymore, but he was into it for a while, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool. So did you let's go later into more of your high school years or whatever, and how'd you use BMX as an outlet or use BMX as escape, as you mentioned earlier? Is that more just to kind of recenter yourself, or what did you use that for?
Yeah, it was everything. So a lot of it, truthfully, I didn't really have the best childhood growing up.
Okay.
So that was always the escape to get away from a lot of just the BS in life and stuff like that. I was never one of those kids that was out doing a bunch of drugs and destroying myself. Not in that sense, anyways. I was destroying myself on a BMX bike. That was my escape. Is kind of doing that.
Huck yourself off a set of stairs.
Not purposely in the sense I'm trying to harm myself, but this is fun,
Right.
Interesting way to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was an escape. Any hard relationships that I had, it was always like, okay, I need to go clear my mind. I'm gonna go ride for a little bit. And it's always been pretty difficult to like ride alone.
I was gonna ask about that. So did you like riding with friends?
Yeah, because it was always so much like positivity and more influence to what you're doing realistically. Like this person's trying to do this trick, you know, and you're trying to like imitate that or like
one up
work off of it, you know. And that's why I've always liked riding with other people. I get more motivation that way, I think.
Interesting, because I was always someone who loved riding alone. Like I could totally just jam out, like throw my headphones in and just get in the zone and do my own thing.
See, and I think going later into life, like when I got into like mountain bike riding and like just riding the bike in general, I loved riding alone more because it offered me more room to like explore things in, you know, Minneapolis and whatnot too.
Yeah,
so
that's fair. Yeah, that's really cool. So did you, when you were into the street riding and stuff, like, did you have a very small group of people that you'd all go out riding with, and was it very kind of like, you know, your inner circle of friends kind of thing?
Yeah. So I grew, like, when I moved to Minneapolis when I was 18, there was probably 3 or 4 people that were kind of riding at that time. And it was crazy because I didn't like really understand the full community of BMX. Like there's a lot of people that ride in Minneapolis. Like it's insane. Like when you really sit down, you like think about like, oh my God. But yeah, a couple close buddies. I met a buddy named Miguel, which I don't know if you know him or not.
No, doesn't ring a bell.
But yeah, he was one of my really good buddies, kind of getting into BMX, and like he's now into cars now too.
Oh, cool.
And but we rode all the time. I mean, we would ride into like 12, 1 o'clock at night and just like not stop.
Right.
And then wake up the next day and go do it again.
Yep.
Like I'm 28 years old now, and like looking back at that when I was like 18, like, I want that energy back. Like I want to be able to stay out that late and not feel like I'm gonna die the next day, you know.
That's funny. That's really cool. So you just kind of like, you guys were just going nonstop, and like, did you, when you said earlier that you used it as like kind of just separate yourself from your family life or whatever's going on in the house, did you talk to your friends a lot about that, or did you like open up at all? You didn't?
Not really until like the later parts of my life.
Yeah.
You know, most of that stuff it wasn't because I didn't want to. It just never came about, or like it wasn't a right time to talk about it.
Yeah, totally.
Not that there's really ever a right time to talk about it. It just never came into like a nice flow of things, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah, and sometimes there's no need to talk about it either. Like,
you're out having a good time. It's kind of just put that stuff behind you and keep moving forward.
Exactly. So. That's awesome. So let's go into a little bit more different stuff. I wanted to ask, what do you think is the most important thing for people listening to focus on if you want to live a fulfilling and a happy life?
I think simplicity. I think like don't make things so complicated for yourself, because like Carl Sagan, one of my favorite people ever, like he has said that we were just space dust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I don't know how to word this. I don't think you should spend a whole lot of time burrowing in the negativity of things, because you can always turn something negative into something positive. You just have to really put your mind to it and work on that.
Right.
You know, and like, yeah, I don't sit here and be like, oh, I had a hard life, my life is terrible. Like you could totally go down that route and live in that hole, but it's really up to you to dig yourself out of that and make time for happiness and like find out what that is for you. Yeah. Whether it's bikes, whether it's skateboarding, whether it's painting, whatever it is, you know. You have to have that ground or that other thing. You got to find it. I mean, it doesn't come to you. You have to really get out there and find it. You have to like, I think the confusion behind happiness a lot of times is that a lot of people, you know, get scared to take a step. They don't know whether it's a step backwards, but you just have to take a step. Whether it is backwards or sideways or 10 steps forward, it doesn't matter. Like you just have to try to move into that direction, you know what I mean? Yeah. So no matter where you're going, it's like you have to put yourself out there. You have to take that leap. You have to, even if it's fearful, even if it's something that you're scared of, like you have to try. Yeah, exactly. Like I think that's what it comes down to. And again, kind of going back to like the bikes thing, that's what it was for me. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna end, but let's give it a whirl. Right. And I think let's going in from my perspective, like going in the BMX stuff, it's like you're trying a trick that you don't know if you can do or not, but it's like it's that, you know, uncertainty of like, I don't know if I can do this, but let's find out. I think a lot of times for me, when it came to like tricks, it was always more of like well, I'm not going to try to overthink this, because I know if I overthink this, that's another thing. The hesitation is what's gonna hurt me. Yeah, you're sitting on like a jump or something, or on like a big drop, and you're like trying to do something off it. You're just like trying to amp yourself up to do it, and then you're overanalyzing it. And that's the thing, is I think that's what comes into play when like you're thinking about happiness. You know, it's like don't overanalyze it, just do it. Which goes into the simplicity you were talking about earlier. Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's kind of a good point. Like people way overthink things in life. Yeah. They do, like, I just like the analogy you're using there, like dropping in or like a ramp or something. Like when I first dropped in on a skateboard, I was like sort of leaning forward each time, just going like, all right, what's gonna happen here? What's
And you
gonna happen
freak
here?
out.
I did freak out. I was like holding onto the railing at the same time, going like, all right. And I think I probably did that for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden I was just kind of leaned forward and went for it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's okay to hesitate sometimes. It's absolutely okay. I'm not saying that it's not.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, but like, I think at the end of the day, that's what bites you in the butt.
Yeah.
It's like the hesitations of
Yeah.
things. It's just like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Because realistically, like, the amount, if you think about it, there's an infinite amount of outcomes that can happen.
Yeah.
And if you really sit there and consume yourself with that, you're never going to do anything with
Yeah.
anything.
That's a good point.
So, like,
Kind of assess the situation and be like, well, what's the worst that could happen here? You know, I could get hurt, but it would feel so good if I finally did this thing.
Yeah.
YOLO!
I don't remember who said this, but I heard it on I was listening to a motivational seminar. I forgot who the speaker was, but he was saying that like whenever there's some situation that you have to really analyze and think about, give it the amount of time that it deserves. You know, if it's a really big thing, give it that amount of time, but don't overthink it. Like you need that time to think about it, but don't sit on it.
Yep, exactly.
So if it's a small thing, give it a small amount of time. If it's a bigger thing, you can give it more time, but don't, go too deep.
Yeah, and everyone takes time to process things differently too. That's kind of
Yeah.
the biggest thing, and that's kind of like the interesting perspective I always looked at things too. Is sometimes some small things can be really huge things to somebody. It's how your brain really is like wired to work.
Oh, sure.
And the psychology behind a lot of that stuff is really interesting to get into, and I could talk about that for days.
Well, I don't know if we have days, but
We could make it.
so I want to ask a couple things. What is your biggest fear?
Yeah.
Like what gives you the most hesitation when you're going to do something?
I know it's gonna sound kind of interesting and different, but like,
Hey, that's good.
I've always I've had a lot of time struggling on this because it's, to me, I think my biggest fear is money, not in the sense that I don't have money, but how it consumes so many people.
Oh.
Like, I look at that because, like, I'm not the most fanciest, richest person in the world. I'm pretty broke if I don't, but it's like, there's so many things you can do outside of that realm, but then at times too, it's so crazy how like money can consume you on certain things.
Yeah.
And if you live your life like that, like it really
Focused on-
sucks you dry. And there was a moment there where I had like a pretty rough spot with that type of stuff, and it was just like,
Because you're focused
everybody's
on
in
the wrong
debt.
things. Yeah.
Go have fun, go do things. Like, you don't really get so many opportunities to like live life, fulfilling yourself if you're so focused on that.
Yeah, if you're trying to
So-
make a paycheck or make a living for yourself and it just eats you alive, and then 6 months go by and you haven't done anything except for trying to make a living.
Yeah. Like, I look at all those folks that are like bike packing across America, or just like living, on their tent and on their bike. Like, that's super inspirational to me, because it's like, they're not making thousands and thousands of dollars doing this. They're just doing it because like they're finding a way to get by with minimal stuff, and that's it. And I think that's like the best way to live life, because I think truly like you're happier that way. When you start to consume more materialistic things, it's like it becomes a part of who you are, like your identity.
Yeah.
If you have less is literally more. So looking at those folks that do that, it's like, it's super awesome to see that.
Totally. That's why, when it comes to material things, it's like I'll buy something if it's actually going to bring me real value and long, like, lasting value. Like if it's a new record or something that I can listen to continuously, or something that gets me inspired, or like a new bike part or something that I know that is going to benefit me long run, or like a bike packing bag that I'm going to use on trips continuously or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I was curious, Eli, what's your biggest fear? I don't know if I know this.
Oh, biggest fear?
Yeah.
Like,
What are you most afraid of, or what, would scare you the most, give you the most hesitation that you need to,
like, as a joke, I would say being buried alive, but, because, that sucks.
Yeah, that's scary.
But, I don't know, maybe uncertainty of certain things that, I don't know.
The unknown.
Yeah, like, I mean, I have a hard time with anxiety, definitely. So, like, when, life kind of hands you a situation that you're like,
you don't know how to deal with
I don't know how to deal with, or if something comes up, I'm very hesitant to try new things or
tackle it.
Yeah, because I'm very like, once I'm in something, I'm content with that
Right.
a lot of the time. If not, then, I'll figure my way out. But if it's something like, I've actually been doing this new thing where I'm traveling with a buddy of ours, Alex.
Yeah.
And doing some filming and stuff. We went out to Eau Claire, and we're going actually to Des Moines
Oh, cool.
next weekend. And that's like, weird for me.
Mhm.
We actually went to Montana this summer, and that was like a huge thing for me because I don't like that was like way out of my comfort zone, and I was like, okay,
You don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like we're on the road for 5 days straight, and I mean it was a lot of fun.
And you're glad you
Kinda
did
like,
it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad I did it, but like,
Taking that step was very difficult.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think the more I'm trying to overcome as well is like that discomfort and that fear of like you don't know the outcome. You don't know, is this going to benefit me? You know, is it worth for me trying? Because like I'm sure you've dealt with that.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to that what we were just discussing earlier about how like the infinite amount of outcomes, you know, like it's the more you analyze it, the more you're like, this could happen, 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 and you're like, ah!
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's the crazy thing with anxiety too, because I definitely deal with that as well. And like, you're anxious about being anxious, so furthermore, you're going to get anxious about that,
Just
and it
overloads
just like,
your brain. It's
yep,
It's just a circle.
yeah, absolutely, and it freaks you out because you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. How do you deal with getting out of that circle or trying to like separate yourself from getting that infinite loop?
Music. That's definitely like another escape for me, honestly. Like hearing at like one of my favorite artists of all time is Idea.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he's no longer with us, but like he had this way with words that was like just blew my mind. Like when I first listened to Idea back when I was 19, I think. What was it? I heard the song Smile. I don't know if you've heard that song.
I have.
That was the first song I ever heard of him, and I didn't even know like he existed before then at all. And then I started finding like all of his old like rap battles and like some of his like
Really raw stuff.
yeah, you know, and it was just like this dude has this mind that is just like over processing things, but he says it in such a beautiful and elaborate way that like I understand.
And you relate to.
Yeah, and like some of his songs are super dark, but like you can take it as that darkness, or you can like look at it like he's trying to say something, but it's, you know, almost in a positive light with the dark in a sense. But I don't know. He's been super inspirational to me as well, and that's always
awesome.
been, you know, another escape for me is music, just in general.
Yeah.
And it could be hip hop, it could be like old blues, you know, like it doesn't matter. Like as long as it has a decent beat and some like really meaningful lyrics, that shit's always helped me.
Yeah. Well, you sent me, there was a spoken word song that you sent me
Yeah.
like a couple weeks ago, and I was listening to it and I was like, whoa, like this is super powerful. Like,
Yeah, Scoobiest Pip. Like,
Yeah.
that's another, like, so if you ever watch, like, his YouTube videos, the crazy thing about him is he has a lisp, and he talks about his lisp, and, like, how he was really scared to do, like, speaking in front of folks, and he just did it, and his words are phenomenal.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
So, dig into that, too, for sure.
That's awesome.
That's why I really like music and poetry and like lyricism like that, because I've talked to people and, you know, artists that I've listened to even, they just want people to be able to relate to their music because they know people maybe have these struggles that they also have, or you know, something that can ground people and make them kind of think
They're not alone.
right, and you know, maybe they're struggling with something but they'll get over it because this person got over it, someone they look up to maybe. So
Yeah. No, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I really see when you said Idea, that made me think of Unknown Prophets. I've been super into them recently. Like they're a really cool group of people.
Yeah, there's so many awesome artists out there that are like that, you know, that's what you like, you get sucked in, you're like, all right, let's just keep listening like all the time.
Yeah.
And you'll play that track on loop almost. I guess I do.
Oh,
Like,
same here.
I can't
Yeah.
stop.
Right. Like whenever I'm biking to work or like at a skate park, I'll just have the same 3 songs on repeat. 'Cause
just
it's
play
like,
them until you're burnt out on them.
yeah. And then you go on to the next 3 songs.
Exactly. I love that.
That's cool. Do you have any other passions outside of music and BMX? I was curious. Like, do you do any other sports?
No, not really. I'd say photography for sure.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't really have a camera to shoot photography, but my phone does a pretty decent job.
Yeah,
and maybe that's just because I'm
definitely.
so used to like how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, my phone has like settings like a normal camera would.
Yeah.
So I can change the ISO, I can change like the shutter speed, kind
It's
of all
insane
that.
how far technology's come.
I know. Like imagine your first like flip phone with a camera.
Yeah.
You know? You're like, I can't even see your face.
Yeah.
And now you can like zoom into people's faces on your phone. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like you can
Look
like
at their
see it clear.
skin pores.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, photography. I have an old film camera that I shoot on sometimes too.
Oh, no way.
So I've been trying to get more into that. It's just been,
Do you know how to develop film? Or do you go to a place and get it done?
I go to a place and get it done. I do have the stuff to set up like a dark room.
That would be gnarly.
And that's, so kind of going back on like owning the house is the garage that we have in back.
Oh, yeah.
We're thinking of like making that like a livable space more or less.
Oh,
and I
cool.
had brought up the idea of making part of that a dark room so you can process film.
Cool.
So it'd be more expensive, like short term,
Yeah.
but in the long run, if I really got into it, like you could develop your own film and just not
Yeah.
have to go anywhere, just in your backyard,
Right.
which would be kind of cool.
Do you have any routines or any practices? I mean, you talked about this a little bit, but on like a day-to-day basis, how do you keep yourself centered? You know, if you have like an anxiety, like or something on a day-to-day, like at work, how do you bring yourself back and like kind of calm yourself back from that, you know, situation?
Yeah. I don't really get too stressed out at work. It's, you know, what I work with customers, obviously, so I'm talking to people. Sometimes I get upset, but take a walk, really, if it's at work. But if it's like home life stuff or just in general with life, you know, it's centering myself is more like, I think for me is getting outside. I think for me it's always been just simply walking outside and just like taking a deep breath.
Yeah.
It really depends on what type of mood I'm in at that time. Like
Totally.
sometimes it'll be like a walk, or sometimes it'll be just simply going outside for a little bit and tinkering with something to get my mind off that situation, and then
Do you
going
think
back
that's
to
like moving your mind somewhere else, like relating to a bigger picture rather than this one small area you might be in?
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely, like, if I need that time to breathe, like, I'll still come back to the situation and, like, solve it. But it's nice to, like, know that if I am in a hard situation, that my mind can still get out of that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's why I go do other things.
Okay.
To try to separate myself from that just for a moment, because, you know, a lot of times I've definitely reacted out of emotion and just pure emotion. I think that's just the human condition, because we feel so much. And I think trying to separate yourself from that and like actually looking at what's going on and then coming back to it, I think that's the healthier, for me anyways, it's a healthier thing for me.
Definitely.
You know, instead of just reacting.
Yeah.
Because you're almost like, you almost teach yourself just to react all the time. You have to like stop.
Yeah, if you take a moment and just step back from the situation and kind of like have your mind go do something else and then come back to it, it's like you're having a different approach because you're calmed down, or you have a different idea about the situation, or you might have a better you know, conscious decision making process.
Was it really that big of a deal? Was it actually bigger than what I thought it was, you know, type of deal? And I think that's the clarity beyond that, I think, is what you're really aiming for me anyways. So.
Yeah, we talked about this before we started the podcast, but I'm curious what your opinions are on patience, and how do you work with patience, and how do you develop more patience? Because I know, like, in these situations we always react. How do you have that patience to step back and not, you know, make such irrational decisions?
I've definitely made irrational decisions before.
I think we all have.
I'm not saying I haven't, but
Whoa.
whoa. No, I don't know. I don't know if it's cursed or blessed with patience. I have no idea. Like, I think honestly, that's one of my best traits that I have is patience.
Okay.
You know, I think struggling, like, so kind of getting like a deeper subject, you know, I love my father, I love my mother a lot, but there was so much shit that happened as a kid. Like, you know, my dad was an alcoholic, so that was kind of the biggest thing. And that's why I was always scared to drink until I was older. I was like, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So I think learning from really negative things in your life, and again, kind of stepping away from the situation, like understanding more,
Taught you.
I think that's what's taught me patience over time. It's because not all things come quickly.
Yeah.
All good things come quickly. I think with patience and time and just nurturing something, like, I think that's how I've gained a lot of the patience that I've had in my life.
So it's definitely developed over time. It's not like you've always been a patient person.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, think about it, you're a kid or like a newborn puppy, like,
Yeah.
you know, everything's exciting,
Yeah.
you know, and I still obviously get super excited about stuff, but I'm a lot more patient when it comes to just trying to understand things in my life.
It's like, this will happen when it happens.
Yep, exactly. So.
That's cool. How do you think there's any other skills that you've learned or developed over time that have been super valuable to living a happy life, or fulfilling, or like having that, you know, like constant awareness?
Trust. I think, like, trusting yourself and trusting people around you, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because I think with our society the way it is, it's so quick. Everything is so expendable.
Yeah.
You know, like with dating apps, with like friends, you get one bad heated moment, you're like, okay, well, there's 10 other 1,000 people that I can meet, you know. I think like the connections that you make between people is kind of like what I live for sure. You know, because everyone's story is so different, and that's kind of like the crazy cool thing about a lot of the things that are in our life. But yeah, I don't know where I was really going with that, but
No, trust is huge. I think.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Do you think that there's any skills that I'm genuinely curious, what are some skills that you think you need to work on, or that you know, aren't as good at, like your personal development skills that like you lack in?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Going off script.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know. I would have to think about that one. We can definitely like come back to that one. I don't
I'll
have
give
one
you-
like that's right on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think right now with my life dealing with, I'm doing so many different things going on, and I have such a busy schedule. The one thing that I wish that I guess I need to work on more so is being able to step back, because I get so overwhelmed lately. Because I have 100
Yeah.
things to do every day. It's like I need to take the time, just relax, and understand that like it's okay that if this thing doesn't get done, like it's not the end of the world. Life
True.
moves on. So that's something I am struggling with, because I want to get all these things done. I have so many things that I want to do, but it's like I can't. I'm only one person. I can't handle all of these in one day. So it's just trying to balance that of like understanding it's not a big deal.
Yeah, that actually does make me think about that now too, because like that like almost opens that door to like what I feel about that too. So I guess I would be in the same boat in that sense, since I've worked customer service my entire life.
Yeah.
You're always dealing with other people's problems, and you're always dealing with other things. So trying to like have that time for self-care, I think that's like been the biggest struggle for me. It's because I also have 2 dogs too, and that's like having 2 newborn children. You're like,
Right.
what are you doing? What are you getting into?
Yeah.
And like,
Always keeping an eye on them.
yeah, and then like trying to like, make it through work and try to be like a better person for myself at work as well, or just in general. So yeah, I think it's like super important to make time for yourself, and definitely make sure that you're caring about yourself before you start caring about others.
So this goes in talking about your animals. You just got the second dog recently, but why do you think you have 2 dogs, or what made you make that decision? Does it help with stress, or do you just have a love for animals? Why do you like having 2 critters running around?
So the first dog was definitely more or less planned.
Okay.
Strawberry, her name is Strawberry. She is the cutest little thing in the world. She's like my little sidekick.
Yeah.
I have always wanted a dog. I think for me, it's always been like, I've always watched mountain bike videos and like dogs shredding with like, the people riding the mountain bikes. And
Oh yeah.
Strawberry does that. So she'll like tag along on the rides.
That's cool.
She's so awesome in the sense that like I don't have to worry about her zipping off and never finding her again, because she'll
Really
be like
loyal.
Yeah. She's food motivated, so she knows I have food. Which it's awesome, because I think for me personally, dogs that are food motivated, they'll listen to you a lot more, and they'll definitely almost show you more love and affection because you feed them.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. Strawberry, so the funny story behind that was like I was going to actually look for like an old Nintendo 64 at like an old, game store.
Yeah.
I got there, they weren't open, so I waited 15 minutes, and then, what happened was more or less like, well, should we go to the Humane Society? Which you just
What a
don't...
twist.
Yeah, I know, right? Game store, Humane Society. Polar opposite spectrum, but why not?
I love it.
So I went there, and it's kind of a really adorable story. Like, I fell in love with Strawberry, because when I walked in there, I did like a loop, and she was just sitting there, like, just sitting, not barking, not like rolling around. I was
Just
like,
chilling.
oh my
The one
God.
polite dog.
Yeah. And I know that dogs are work, and sometimes you can't always like count those dogs out that are barking because they're stressed out. And I
Right,
totally
yeah.
understand that. But Strawberry, her story is that she came from a puppy mill down south. And the day that I picked her up, she just got dropped off. So she had just been put in the kennel for about 45 minutes.
Wow.
And when I got there, she was just sitting there looking at me with her sad eyes. And I was like, oh, God, no. Like, you're the one.
That's how you win them over.
Yeah. Well, she picked me.
I meant like, that's how the dogs win you over.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah, exactly.
gotta go in with the sad eyes and
Feed me. No, and then it kind of all worked out. So I was like sitting there, and I was giving her a treat, and I was like, she's the one. And then a volunteer came over and was like, hey, do you want a bonding room? And I was like, oh no. Oh no.
This is it.
Yep. So we got her in a bonding room, and like that's what they called it. And she like responded to her name. She like came over and she just sat down next to me, and then jumped up on my lap, and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, yep, okay.
at that point you're committed.
Yep. And ever since then, like, she's seriously been a best friend. And kind of going back to the stress thing, she definitely does relieve a lot of stress. Like if it's a stressful day, like the first thing I want to do is go home and just
Hang out with the
snuggle
dog.
my dog.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, she's adorable. She's super affectionate, and that's like been the best part about it.
How did the second dog come about? Sorry to interrupt you there.
Well, I was just gonna ask what kind of dog Strawberry was.
It's really interesting. So she's like a dark gray, almost like blue-gray color, like you'd see in like a pit bull.
Okay.
But she's a terrier Thai Ridgeback mix. So a Thai Ridgeback almost looks like a pit bull in a sense, like the same like structure, like kind of built.
Yeah.
But in a terrier body. So if you can think of like a smaller, like 30-pound built terrier. She looks intimidating, but she's the biggest sweetheart. And she's so calm and so like doesn't bark at all, which is kind of strange. Like I didn't hear her bark until like month 6 that I had her. I was like, whoa, you got kind of a vicious bark.
Yeah.
Never would have expected that from how small she is, but here we have it.
Packs a punch.
Yeah. And then George, the second dog, came along because we wanted to do more of like a, well, we don't want Strawberry being alone. You know, like I felt bad because I was like, yeah, you have your humans, but like you need another companion, you know? Yeah. And George is the polar opposite of Strawberry. So he's very like ecstatic and like, what are we doing? Where are you going? Where are you going?
Energetic, yeah.
Yeah. And doesn't ever calm down. And Strawberry gets like fed up with him sometimes, like leave me alone.
Right.
And she'll like go wander off and just like do her own thing, you know? But they're getting along, they're getting better and better. Strawberry definitely holds her own against herself, against George, because like I said, George really definitely does get pretty irritating to her sometimes. So it's cute. They're bonding. They're getting there.
That's cool. Do you, going into, let's see, I don't know, what do I want to touch on next?
Anything.
What is the absolute one thing that you want the audience to take away from this episode? You know, if there's one thing you could tell everyone listening right now, what would you tell them?
Be weird. Be strange. You know, like, don't be afraid of that stuff. Like, it's, I don't know. I think about this almost every single day, is about this, the impact that normalism has on stuff. Like, be normal. You know, what the hell is that?
Yes,
like,
I love that.
What the hell is that? I don't ever understand that. I've never understood that. I've always been such a weird dude.
Yeah, same here.
You know, and it's like, well, I'm going to rock it.
Yeah.
Like, as you know, and a lot of other people know who do know me, like, yeah, Chaz is a weird dude, but he's always stoked. He's always happy or, like, laughing super loud or something like that.
Right, yeah.
I can say the same about Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's like you never fit in anywhere, and you never want to... Yeah. It's weird. Like, you're just your own person, which is a cool thing, because it's like, you know, you're so unique that everyone knows you for that, like, your distinct personality.
Sure. Yeah, you know, and I think, like, that's when having, like... being an individual, that's what comes into play. Like, is that just be yourself. Like, don't be afraid to be weird. Don't be afraid to try something different that somebody else isn't doing, you know? So
yeah, I think a lot of people get stuck in the social norm of like, oh, I have to do this because other people are doing it. I want to be not necessarily because I want to be like everyone else, but everyone else is doing it, so I want to be a part of
on
that.
the bandwagon.
Yeah. But it's like, once you separate yourself from that and just do your own thing and be yourself and be truly like, be weird and, you know, doing those weird quirky things that are just solely distinct to you, it's like, that's when you are your truest self, so why not do that?
Yeah. I think, so as a kid I was always so scared to do that stuff, but then like getting older I just, you know, said like, you know, fuck it, like whatever, it's I'm gonna be weird and this is it. That's how nobody can stop me.
Yeah. Same here. When I was in middle school and high school, I was so afraid to talk about the fact that I actually enjoyed writing and I enjoyed poetry. Like, I was so like afraid to put that out there because I thought people would think like I'm so, you know, I'm different, or I'm too like, oh, Ian writes, like what the hell is that, you know? But I just decided like, you know what, I don't care what people think of me. This is what I enjoy doing, so I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna share it.
I also think too, kind of going into that subject, I think for me a lot of it was like the whole toxic masculinity thing, because like people like other dudes would be like, you write, like, yeah, what the hell is that, you know?
Right.
And it's like, shut up. Like, just shut up.
Right. That's the thing. It's, people are always there's gonna be those people who are be like, well, why are you doing that? You know, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. Like, you have to do this. And I'm like, well, who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? I'm gonna live the life how I want to live it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah. Like I said, goes back to that's a full circle. Be weird, be yourself. You know, for me, it's being weird and just like loving everything and everybody, really.
That's awesome.
Hug your friends.
Tell them you love them.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you not let those people tell you not to do something, but you know that you want to do your own thing? Have you always been like, fuck you, I'm just going to do whatever I want? Or did it take time to kind of develop that?
I think it definitely took time. I mean, kind of going back to the subject of anxiety, there was a lot of anxiety behind it, especially in like high school. You know, I didn't really do so well in high school simply because like I feel like our school systems a lot of times almost strip you away from your individualism. Yeah. You know, definitely. And they teach you like, do it by the books. We're going to teach you what we need to teach you, you know? And like, I hated that. And that's why like our class is always super phenomenal for me, because it's like, well, I can draw whatever the hell I want. I can do whatever the hell I want. And that's kind of what inspired me to kind of just be more open about that type of stuff. And like now, where I'm at now, it's definitely more I'm super open with everybody. Like if someone wants to know something, like sure, I'll let
Yeah.
you know. What do you want to know?
Right. That's
So-
awesome. I think it's a really good quality because a lot of people are so afraid nowadays to be like open up and be themselves, and it's like
Mhm.
I don't understand why we're so afraid and so scared to be who we are as an individual. Like why are we so afraid to be open? I understand that like people are afraid that they might attack you, or they feel some sort of like discomfort or whatever when they disclose something. But I mean, what do you have to lose?
Yeah. I did this thing in high school it was me and my friend Jerry, which I hope that dude's doing great in his life right now. I don't talk to him anymore, but
That's awesome.
him and I did this thing like so I was you could label me as like an emo kid in high
Sure.
school, and that's totally fine, but like I was one of the only kids in the high school doing that at the time, like wearing black, or at the time.
Did you have chains?
No, I didn't. So I was a kid. I wanted like skinny jeans, and they didn't actually invent skinny jeans yet for like men. So
Okay.
I wore girls jeans
Oh,
because they
yeah.
were tight, and I was like, these are sick.
Nice.
Right.
And I was the only like kids doing that. And then Jerry was the coolest dude. So he always wore cargo shorts, even in winter.
Yes.
That was like his thing. But
Cargo shorts.
We knew someone like that in middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like it could be the coldest day in winter, and he'd still wear fucking cargo shorts. But yeah, we did this thing one day where we just wore white T-shirts and like skinny jeans and said no label. And I remember this kid named Clint. He like yelled at me and said some really profound things to me, because he was offended by the fact that I like was stepping up to like say like we shouldn't have labels like this,
Yeah.
like we're all individuals type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just so offended. I actually had to go home for the day because like I freaked out on him.
Oh.
And then the English teacher, I don't remember his name, but he like told us, "All right, you two out of here right now."
Yeah.
Oh,
One of
man.
those.
So
That's really cool though. Even at such a young age, you're like, I'm not gonna confound to the social norm. I'm gonna wear this shirt that says no label, and I'm gonna do my own thing, like regardless of what people are gonna think of me.
mm-hmm.
People don't like not confrontation, but what's the word I'm looking for?
I
Like,
don't know.
Yeah, I'm not you. I don't know what you're
you
thinking.
know, like,
They don't like when people are different.
sure, but
Few
What?
words, but
what do you mean? What? Yeah, but people don't like
When people stand up or like,
cause like a disruption. People
Yeah.
don't like disruption, and
Yeah.
so like if like I think that's why probably like the teacher was like, you know what, get out of here, guys, or whatever, because other people are having a problem with it. That they want to
Yeah.
find the small outlier that's causing this problem.
yeah,
and
in quotation.
yeah, and get them out of there because it's just gonna cause.
yeah, and opinions will always clash. I
Yeah.
feel like if you form an opinion of something, you're almost in a sense going to, I don't know how to word this properly, like if you have an opinion, your mind is already set on the opposite of it that is the wrong thing to think, you know what I mean?
You're kind of married to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like it sounds just really vague and like kind of radical, but like don't form opinions,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that's always going to be the thing. Well, if you're this, then you're not this.
Right.
It's like,
You have to conform to one thing, but if you don't
Yeah.
have that set idea, then you're open to any of it.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Just feel comfortable with what you're doing, I guess. And just know that everything is fluid and everything can change.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Going back to talking about our skills that we're struggling with, I'm still developing right now, but I'm so resistant to change. I don't know why, but it's like I guess it's just human nature. We like comfort. We like what we know. So it's really hard for me to step out of that change. But I'm doing it a lot more recently, which is cool because I've been learning a lot about myself and I've been developing. But
Yeah, for me, I've always thought like, well, you're never really a final product of who you say you are. Like tomorrow, my opinion on something could change. That today was like I felt super strong about.
right,
New information is always being presented. somewhere
Exactly.
About something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's why I've always stuck to that whole thing of like, well, you're never a final product of yourself.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I might decide that I like 24 or 26-inch dirt jumpers. I'm like, all right, no more BMX bikes.
Yeah.
Dirt jumpers. I don't know. Just like it could be anything really. So it's I don't remember. Do you know who Alan Watts is?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Good. So
He's
Alan
come up a couple times on this podcast, I think. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like so Carl Sagan, Alan Watts, Terrence McKenna.
Oh yeah.
He was more of like a lucid, like do a bunch of drugs type of guy, but he had a lot of like really
Good insights.
yes, like I don't know, just like don't limit your mind, like don't restrict it to like the norm, and
We
that's
put a lot of ceilings on things, and I don't
Yeah.
know why.
yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm not the type of person that just goes and does a bunch of like acid or anything like that, but you know, he made a lot of really good points
Wouldn't
about
want to
like
incriminate yourself.
he did make a lot of good points about like opening up your mind. There's a lot of things that I think humans still have not yet discovered in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know that whole phrase about you only use this percentage of your brain, blah blah blah. But
Right.
like I don't know. I think like we don't always use our entire brain fully to what it's like fully capable of doing.
Oh, 100%.
So
And that's the one thing too I'm learning is that my life is getting more busy. It's like I didn't know I was capable of doing all of these things in one day, but it turns out I am, and I had no idea like this was even possible as one person.
but yeah, you're a motivated individual. So I mean, you're gonna push yourself to do that. And I think something that I've like recognized with you over time is that you drive yourself. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, you know, contributing to like what you're doing in life, which
Yeah.
is phenomenal.
Which is awesome. I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. I mean, I see it. I'm sure a lot of other folks see it too. I mean, you're doing things that a lot of people are scared to do, which is kind of, you know, I feel like it would motivate others to try doing similar things, I think.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, I always think about that type of stuff too. Like just again, kind of going back to our conversation, just being open about everything.
Right.
Everybody should do it. I think the world would be a better place if everyone was just a hell of a lot more open.
100%. And that's why I try to be like whenever I'm writing or putting out content with Make Happiness stuff, I want to be as authentic and as real as possible. So it's like if I'm having a bad day, like fuck it, I'm going to tell people I'm having a bad day. You know, it's okay to have those moments.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want to put up a facade of, you know,
Everything is-
nothing, something that you aren't. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. So I was reading some stuff about that and like how there is musical artists that do that. You know, they put up this like everything's okay. And
for sure.
see, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I like the people that like dig deep and like they talk about like some really serious dark stuff.
Right.
You know, because if you listen to their music when they first started and they're writing about stuff to where they are now, you can see how their emotions and feelings have changed over time.
Yeah.
And I think that's always something that's super awesome to see, you know, with writers, with musicians, with, you know, people who do whatever they're doing.
You just see the whole process and the whole development
Oh, yeah.
from start to finish.
Yep.
And it's really, yeah, like with my journal that I write in, I try to write in daily, but it's like, well, more or less it's daily, but it's really cool to see the progression of everything. So it's like from where I started, because I started writing in high school, it's where I am now,
Yeah.
which I'm 21. So it's like 3 years later. It's like, it's insane to see all of the different things I've done and like, you know, moments I've had and epiphanies and whatever, realizations, whatever you want to call them. But
And that's why writing, you can go back to that and then like look like I felt this way this time. I don't feel that way anymore. Or do I have like a trace of that energy, you know, that I
Yeah.
felt at this time? So
Kind of going back to reflection like we talked about last week.
yeah,
Yeah.
it all comes full circle.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's another, have you heard of the law of attraction?
So I mean, yes and no.
Okay. So do you believe in karma?
I'm indifferent.
Okay.
Because there's like days where I'm just like, be good and good will like, you know, come at you. And some days I'm just like, this shit's terrible. Things just happen because they happen, you know? And
Yeah.
that's like, I
That's the
think,
truth.
I think everyone feels that way sometimes. Like, I don't know, like kind of goes back to what I was talking about, just how like everything's so fluid,
Yeah.
you know? And it's hard for me to like truly believe in like one thing all the time. It's that, I think that's been my biggest struggle, I think. Honestly, I think kind of now talking about it and opening that door,
Yeah.
I think that's been one of the biggest things.
Having that faith of one distinct idea.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why. I can't tell you why because I really don't know. And that's honestly like me speaking honestly, but it's because my
something you
mind
don't
is
need to
always it's always ever evolving. You know, it's
Yeah.
always changing. There's always so much new information I'm processing on a day-to-day basis. You know.
Yeah.
So it's
So-
like why believe one thing when it could be completely different the next day, like you were talking.
I
very,
think
very open-minded.
yeah, and I think I like the idea of karma
Mhm.
because I think the truth behind that is that it makes you a better person. It makes you believe that if you do good, good will come your way.
Mhm.
And I love that, you know, because it's like that shit is what needs to happen.
Right. But I think a lot of these philosophies and religions and all these things, like ultimately the entire goal is just help yourself become a better person.
Mhm.
Like that is the ultimate thing. If you're developing a certain skill or you like learning on yourself and learning about yourself and gaining that awareness or trying new things, like all that whole thing encompasses you developing and growing individually.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that's the ultimate thing. And if you don't need a religion or you don't need a philosophy or the law of attraction to do that, then like, fuck it.
Yeah, you know, and I think the biggest thing is just truly believing in yourself. Like, if you feel that you need this part of like this religion or this whatever it is, like, do it.
Yeah.
You know, but don't abuse it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's been the biggest human struggle.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to, if they believe, like earlier we talked about opinions, it's like, oh, I believe this, you need to believe this too, like you have to do this.
It's
Going
almost
into it head first.
yeah. You're not having an open mind about it. Like you're automatically, you're so focused in and narrowed in on this like simple idea that means so much to you, but probably doesn't mean anything to anybody else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like that's why I think you need to have open mind at all times. Like have your ears open and don't talk to talk. Like talk and then listen to the other person's response. You know,
100%.
like actually take that in.
Yeah.
Because everyone's so different.
I know, and there's so many like. Who's do you know Mod Sun? He's a local artist. He so in his book, Did I Ever Wake Up? He said that there's every person you meet knows an answer to a question that you have never been asked.
Yeah.
So it's just like essentially saying everyone else knows something you don't know, and you can learn something from everyone.
Oh yeah, and then I think so. My favorite quote of all time is from Alan Watts. He said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth." So if you just take a second to like think about that, like try to bite your own teeth.
Mm-hmm.
You
When
can't.
you said that, I was like trying to do it in my mouth. It's like
you're like, ah! Like you'll get frustrated trying to like think about it so much, you know, like you can't.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's so many like amazing people that have such deep thoughts that like think about this type of stuff on the daily, and it's so awesome to see folks like writing about it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's awesome. So
I want to touch on this. Well, this is going to be a little selfish, but going to what you were talking about, having that one focus, that direct thing. It's like, I'm doing Make Happiness till the day I die, no matter what. Like, regardless of if I make money or whatever, like, it is solely what I believe, and I will pursue it. But it's not like I'm forcing it on other people. Like,
no.
you can be a part of it if you want to be. You don't have to be. And it's just like, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to do. It's like,
and you know what's going to happen though with that is like the best part about that is just because you're doing you and you're focusing on that, other people will see that. And they'll follow that because it's almost like the ray. What was that coffee mug that you had? The ray of fucking light.
Or I'm a ray of fucking sunshine.
Yeah, like that's what's gonna happen. People are attracted to happiness, you know, and people are. I think folks are genuinely attracted to happiness.
Yeah.
You know, like in the relationships that I've been in, you know, things like that, like other situations, like I've pushed myself away from people who can't. Like if I've tried to like help them find their happiness or like help them out,
yeah,
and they don't want to help themselves, it's been really hard for me to be like,
still
I'm going to be here for you
yeah.
forever, because like that sucks you dry. Like I personally think it does.
Down, yeah.
You know, because you're taking your energy and what you have filled in your cup and you're pouring into someone else. That's just draining.
Right.
You know, they're
And
not
giving
pouring
anything
back. And I think that's like one of the biggest.
Wow, that's kind of profound.
Yeah, it's like. See, this is how my mind works.
Yeah.
Like, I just start like, wow.
I'm just kind of thinking about that, going like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It totally does, like in my mind. And if
Yeah.
it does to other folks, great. But like, you can't pour your cup into someone else's cup if they're not willing to pour back. Like it's a relationship, it's a community in that sense. Like you have to like equalize things and like make it equal. Like
right.
you just have to.
When it's like saying that you're gonna pour coffee into coffee with ketchup, you know, it's like it doesn't work.
Yeah. And so but if that other cup had something else to offer you that you didn't have,
fair
you know,
point.
like it's an ever changing thing.
Like, like if you have a hamburger and you wanted some ketchup,
there you go.
You might want that.
I just think like everybody has something else, like something different to offer, whether it's not happiness. Well, I can give you happiness if we can communicate and exchange on this, you know, like I do think that happiness is the biggest thing in a lot of relationships, friendships, you know, whatever it may be. Like it is key, but there's other things that other folks can contribute as well.
Yeah, but I don't think that you should solely invest in other people making you happy, because I don't think that that's going to help you long term.
It won't fill you up. You have to, like, again, you have to fulfill yourself before you fill other people up too. So.
Which is, that's a good point. You can't give anyone else if you have an empty cup.
Nope. You can't. And so many folks try to do that, and like they just it doesn't end well. You know? Like that's when you get a lot of hurtful relationships. That's when you get a lot of hurtful friendships. That's where you don't feel like, or almost feel like you're being used for something, you know?
Oh yeah. So how do you fill yourself up? How do you get yourself to be motivated and self-driven? Like, I'm curious about that.
So lately it's been a lot of stretching and just like loving my job. You know, like I'm getting older and older, and I hate to admit it. I'm only 28 years old. I'm not really that old, but
No,
like,
not at all.
I didn't take care of my body riding BMX as a younger person. Like, I didn't give it time to heal. And now that like I've reflected on that, I'm like, yeah, that's really important.
But it's cool that you're working on it.
Yeah, like I do need to stretch, and I do need to like warm myself up before I do anything. And I think like, touching back on that, having a job that like is super awesome, having like the community behind the job, like for the longest time I never thought it existed, but it definitely does. Like, it's out there.
That's really cool. And that's the other too, I'm learning about working at QVP. It's like, I would have never known you if I didn't work at Q, you know? And it's crazy because we have such the same energy. Like, you meet the people, you like going into the people you attract with the same level and the same kind of concepts of everything. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm sure we would have met somehow because BMX is such a weird community. Like, totally. I see you riding BMX in Minneapolis. Like, I'm going to come ride with you, you know? But yeah, I get exactly what you mean, you know, and let's keep making happiness.
Yeah, that's right. Is there any other final thoughts or anything you want to talk about quick before we end it?
Am I curious? So this has been something that's been on my mind quite a bit lately, and you can either take it as something negative or you can take it as something positive. So death.
Oh, okay.
So, not that like I want to die or anything. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. No.
I don't. But like, how do you view that? Have you thought about that? Has that been something that's like crossed your mind?
Yeah, 100%. So, this is going to be a little bit of a not touchy subject, but I've had a couple friends pass away recently, so it's been definitely more on the radar, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And it's like, yeah, we never know when our last day is. Like, I could die today. Like, it's such a real thing, and I think a lot of people, you know, don't think about that. But the more I've been recently thinking about it, it's like, if I'm going to die tomorrow or today, then I might as well be as authentic as possible. I might as well give everything I have, put everything out there on the table. Because it's like, if I'm not going to be here tomorrow, I want to have everyone else to be able to see what I was or what I did or, you know, what I hope to do.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with you on that. And I think, like, have you ever had the thought, though, like, what happens afterwards, you know?
Oh, yeah. One
like,
of those
I
questions.
love that subject because it's like everyone's perspective is so different.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
okay. I do have a very, like, firm belief on this. So
sure, let's hear it.
Our energy is it's not created or destroyed, right? Only transferred.
Sure.
And there's all energy inside of us. So when we die, our energy doesn't just disappear. It goes somewhere. You know, if you want to call it a soul, a spirit, whatever it is, we all have energy inside of us. And when we pass away, the energy has to go somewhere, whether that's into the universe, into the ground, or into the heaven or hell. You know,
space dust.
Yeah. So I think that our energy just gets put out into our world. Like, there are, you know, I don't know if you want to call them souls or spirits or whatever, but there is energy constantly around us, and that is just, you know, that is all existing. And, you know, you could put so I feel like when you're I don't know if you've ever had one of these moments where you're in like you're around some sort of area or like a place where someone passed. You just get this weird energy. Like, you get that same vibe. It's really interesting.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's like a lot of people, like, there's no such thing as like gut feelings. Like, oh no, there is.
Yeah.
Like, you know. Definitely. Your brain is telling you something, and it's telling, like, yo, this isn't right, or this is right, or whatever it may be, you know? Like, yeah. Now, I think, like, you know, to kind of like answer my own question too is, you know, I definitely think that I'm kind of on like same lines as you. I've always had this like idea, like, so you're born and you wake up. Now imagine like the reverse flip of that. Like, you die and then you go to sleep. I'm trying to think of the exact, so again, referencing Alan Watts. Let me find this because this is actually really, like, it'll almost like blow your mind.
Okay.
So
Eli, what's your opinion on death? What do you think happens after we die?
I was thinking about this when you guys were just talking about that. I don't know. I don't have any answer. No one can say for sure one thing or the other. It's kind of what we're talking about, having an open mind. I'm not going to say one thing because I don't know. I will only know once I die.
What would you like to happen? Or, like, you know, if you had, what would you want to happen?
I don't really think about that. I'm not concerned with it because it's not, like, my life is here and now, so I focus on that. I don't want to focus on what might happen. I don't know if it does. It might happen, which would be really cool for, you know, those people who are, you know, living in that state of mind or something like that. But I won't knock one thing that someone says or believes or anything like that, and I'm not gonna, you know, go the other way and say, well, that's
Not
horse
right,
shit
yeah.
or something like that.
Mhm.
But because no one knows.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to be cremated?
I don't know. Just, I'm dead, so I don't
Doesn't matter.
leave it up to the people who are left behind. And
Fair enough.
I've always
Care
had
enough.
this thought. So this is gonna be really dark and morbid, but it is what it is
No,
because
go for it.
like, so my dad has 67 acres of land up in like the middle of nowhere, Minnesota.
Mhm.
I seriously will put my will, just throw me out there. Like, don't bury me. Like, just recycle. Like, Earth's, like you die, you go into the ground, whatever. Like, my body probably will have nutrients that animals will need.
kind of
Right.
putting that energy back into that area. Okay.
I mean, like, I'm dead.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there's no more
it is what it
use.
is, you
Yeah.
know. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to be buried. Like, I don't want to be sitting there like. Not
Taking
that I
up
like
space.
think I'm gonna be like sucked into this like coffin. That's where I'm gonna be for the rest of my life. Like, I don't
Mhm.
think that, but like, I don't know. Just throw me in the woods. Some animals will like find me. They're like, oh, this is interesting taste. Like,
That is. That's really cool. I've never heard that perspective.
I don't know. Like,
I've always. This kind of is taking off Ahmad's son thing that he had a vision of, but I don't want to be buried. I don't want to be in a cemetery because cemeteries are so cold and lifeless, just a bunch of rocks. And I want to be buried in a tree. Like, I want to become a part of a tree, and that's going to be my gravestone. So it's like it's full of life. It's
they
full.
do that. They do that
I was
now.
gonna say they do that.
Yeah.
They put you in like a little pod type thing, and then it grows into a tree.
Yeah,
Like
you
that's
are the
what I-
nutrients for the tree. Like,
Yeah,
literally.
I want to be that. That's what I want to do when I die. So if whoever's listening, if you're a loved one of mine, like do that to me when I pass.
You have it
Yeah.
now. Throw me in the woods.
I'll make sure it happens.
So going back to the Alan Watts thing, like this is something I truly believe in. He says, try to imagine what it would be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Now try to imagine what it was like to wake up and never have gone to sleep.
Okay,
Like,
interesting.
it's hard to think about because you're like you don't put yourself in that position to think about that at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's I guess that's kind of like what I believe. Happens.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. It's like rah!
Yeah.
But
That's weird. You're just like in this state of just sleep and it's forever existing.
it's crazy to think about. Like, oh.
Yeah. Do you think you could still dream?
What if we're dreaming right now?
That'd be cool. I mean,
This
honestly,
is a whole
I
rabbit
am.
hole we're gonna go down.
Dude, I am living a dream. Like, no doubt.
yeah.
I am in a dream currently.
There's so many interesting perspectives. I mean, it's crazy how folks will get these ideas and to the rabbit hole. Like, some people think we're playing a video game right now. Like, some
Yeah.
people like this is the digital world. And
Dude,
like,
I was
It's all a
listening to
simulation.
Yeah. Joe Rogan, Elon Musk podcast. They were talking about that, and they were talking about the whole idea of that. And it was so interesting to hear their perspective on it, because
yeah.
they were saying that like technology is going to get to a point where we won't be able to distinguish between what is virtual reality and actual reality.
Mhm.
So there's going to be a playing field where it's like what is real and what isn't real because technology is so developed that it's like we can't differentiate the two.
There was a movie about that, actually. I don't remember the name of it, but essentially, like, AI takes over, and
Yeah.
they're, like, in the shape of humans, and they think that they're humans,
Right.
and the humans abandon Earth to go live on Mars, but they come back to Earth, and, like, they're in these weird, like, outfit, like, weird things, and they're like, well... And what happens is, like, they're trying to discover, like... They don't even try to discover. They come back attacking the humans.
Right.
Or the AI.
Yeah.
And the AI, like, come about... And they realize that they're recycled AI, and they start having these memories of like the war before
Oh, wow.
it happened. They're like, "This is so trippy. Like, how did
Yeah.
this happen?" The humans
Yeah.
are like, "Because AI took over, and we had to flee."
Mm-hmm.
And they come back hoping that the AI somehow died, but they built the Earth up, and it's like clean and fresh, and like everything's like perfect.
That's wild.
And it's like, that is something that could like happen. With
And
how
going back to being
artificial.
open-minded, like the possibilities are infinite.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you never know.
Yeah.
And with all like the advancements, like I don't know, again going down that rabbit hole, like it's I would have a hard time saying that like there isn't like life out there that we have not gotten technology from. Like I don't think humans as humans themselves could have created the shit that we've created.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think so. And I'm not some crazy like let's go chase some UFOs type of person, but like
Right.
there's no way that we've discovered all this stuff by ourselves. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
And especially with like, if we put into perspective of how small we are and how small even just our galaxy is compared to the entire being of existence, like we're just a speck of dust in the whole
Yes.
thing. Like,
Someone else out there is looking at our Earth right now and be like, there's life on that planet, like
yeah.
there's
And-
no way that we're the only ones doing that.
Mm-hmm. And they're thinking that like, oh, we're just some organisms or something. Like we could be a plant to them, like they have no idea.
Yeah. That kind of goes on to like that subject too. Like But there's a perspective that somehow like the Earth is advanced faster than any of the other planets out there, and
Oh,
that
wow.
somehow like we're more advanced than anyone else, so we're discovering the things first. But,
That's
like,
what Alex talked about one time. My
Yeah.
brother, I was talking to him about it. He's like, yeah, what if we are the advanced, and then we get to someone else's planet, and they're like, whoa, who are these aliens? But it's like,
Yeah.
we're looking at, like,
you never know.
I think there's just too many possibilities to think that, it could be, but
You're-
there's so the universe is vast. There's this website that I know, it's called Scale of the Universe, and it really it's basically this timeline of things. Well, not a timeline, but like a little scroll bar you can go on, and it starts kind of in the middle as like the size of a human.
Mhm.
You can go all the way down to like the smallest thing, like quarks and atom size, like the tiniest little things. And it goes all the way out to like size of observable universe or what we know we've measured, and then
Mhm.
like it's insane. They give measurements or whatever. Like I wouldn't even
That's
know.
cool.
It's kind of hard to.
put into perspective. Or
Yeah.
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 And, like, for all we know, well, I guess we do know this, but, like, I was going to say, well, what if the moon's made of cheese, Like,
we don't know what's on the other side. We're only informed of what they're telling us.
it's true. For all we know, the moon landing is fake, because there's a lot of conspiracy about that, too.
Oh no, that's the whole black. That's the rabbit hole right
Go down
there.
one rabbit hole, we go to another one.
It's never
Cool.
ending. Isn't that what a rabbit hole is? It's never ending.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah. Is that like an Alice in Wonderland thing? Did that come from that, do you think?
I don't know.
The book? Like going down the rabbit hole?
It's a good question.
I don't know if it came from that. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe the book
I don't
got
know
it
enough
from that
history
or
on it,
something, yeah.
but
I don't even. Well, actually, no.
Next
I think
time.
I have.
Anyway, yeah, next time on the Make Happiness podcast.
Cool, dude. This has been awesome. Like, I really appreciate you coming on. We went through some really cool topics.
yeah, for sure. It was, like I said, endless pit of black holes in my mind, or rabbit holes.
The existence of all beings.
We went from happiness to rabbit holes.
Yeah, dude. Well, why not? Like,
Switch gears a bit.
yeah.
Change things up.
Well, that's the thing. We're being who we are. It's like that's what we talk
This
about.
is happiness.
Yeah.
We're obviously like laughing and giggling about nonsense. So.
Yeah, right.
Because, this is going to go into a whole other thing, but I personally believe that, to some extent, there is no meaning to anything. We create our own meaning for what.
Don't be so cynical, Ian.
But I'm not even being cynical. I'm flipping it because it's like we create our own meaning for everything.
He's
so it's
being
like
honest.
we can create a meaning of what we want everything in our
Yeah.
lives to be. So it's about, owning that and believing and like harnessing what you want to do with it and how you want to take everything. So
That
People
goes-
ask like what the meaning of life is, but we create that for ourselves.
Exactly.
In a way. Okay.
mhm.
Heaven isn't something that you go to. It's all within you.
Mhm.
Like that's an idea, like quote that he had, because that was what his thought was, or that's how we thought about that. It's like there is no heaven or hell. Heaven is what's inside of you,
Mhm.
and how you represent that.
Yeah.
So, whoa.
Lots of whoa moments in this podcast. Cool.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I really appreciate you, the 4 people who stayed through the end, but there is 4 people, so you're awesome. There's going to be some more guests coming on. I'm really excited about the next couple. There's one that I'm in particular he has some really cool adventure stories and stuff that he's done, some really cool accolades, but so continue doing what you're doing and always remember to make some happiness.
Take care.